We have very interesting topic today, shaping of corporate athlete. In fact, we see regularly sports athletes. We don't know what is a corporate athlete. We'll have a very interesting session by Mr. Achal Rangaswamy, how a corporate athlete could be in the next 1 hour, followed by little question and answer session. We'll have 10-15 minutes. On behalf of AMA, it's my pleasure to give a brief introduction about our faculty today, but he needs no introduction for most of you because he has been a well-wisher of AMA for a long time, and he is a marathon marketer and salesperson throughout his career. For the sake of newcomers, I would give a brief introduction about him. Mr. Achal Rangaswamy is a postgraduate from Delhi University and is an alumnus of prestigious St. Stephen's College, which most of you are familiar. Beginning his professional career in sales at Every India Limited, Rangaswamy rose rapidly through the ranks and left his mark in various organizations like Xerox, Usha International, Amtrak Hitachi Air Conditioners, and finally at Bell Ceramics, where he has joined as a GM Marketing and moved up to President Marketing and Business Development, where he did a stint of almost 18 years. That was his last job. Apart from that, Rangaswamy is an avid reader and a music lover and a huge sports enthusiast. He makes time to blog in various subjects and is very active in social media these days. He has traveled, the interesting aspect of him is he has traveled over 250,000 kilometers on his Enfield Bullet motorcycle to understand India and Indians in a better manner. He has penned 3 path-breaking books, Time is Money, Beyond the Uncharted Landscape, a career guidance for youngsters, and Discovering the Joy of Selling, a book on why sales is such a noble profession. He has been mentioning that most of the youngsters doesn't want to really, B-school graduates doesn't want to slog around in sales these days, but once he realized the importance of sales for any organization, they are showing interest and making a good career in this. Rangaswamy is a recipient of our AMA Jadis Cadilla Marketing Man of the Year Award, and he has trained for 13,500 people in areas like sales, marketing, leadership, communication, and time management. Apart from being a corporate trainer and mentor to many professionals, he thoroughly enjoys visiting B schools to tell the youngsters on how to prepare for corporate life, which is why most youngsters prefer to call him by the name Coach. He loves to keep sharing his concept of awards and his daily Rangaisms, a series of thought-provoking quotations and questions for young professionals. With this brief introduction, I would invite our speaker for today's lecture, Mr. Rangaswamy, with a bouquet of flowers.
Good evening. I'm delighted to see all of you. A lot of familiar faces. A lot of people who are willing to tolerate my talks twice a week. Requires a lot of guts. But I must confess that I'm a little disappointed with the low turnout. I don't know whether my competitor is Garba or Duh, the movie, or some concert or something like that, because I was telling somebody, this is a free talk, it is an open talk, इसके पैसे नहीं लगते हैं, लेकिन शायद ये मेरा सबसे कीमती talk है. What I wanted to tell people was I'm going to talk on a subject which is going to cost a lot of people not only a lot of money, but maybe their health, maybe their life. It's a very serious subject. I'll try not to sound very serious about it, but I have been deeply affected in the last few months about certain turn of events, and therefore I thought that corporates, and especially young corporates, should start thinking about this and acting on it. Because time is something over which you have no control. Time flies. The bad news is time flies. The good news is you are the pilot. But most people don't realize that they're sitting in the cockpit. They think somebody else is flying their aircraft. You're flying your own aircraft. And there are times when you will have to fly your own aircraft. And since we think somebody else is flying it, we think we depend on somebody else. And so the destination is something else. Our goal was something else. And like Christopher Columbus, you come in search of India, but you find a poor country called America. India was a very rich country. So, but anyway, I must thank you all for the gift of your time. If you people could find time to be here, a lot more people could have found time to be here. So no excuses. So whichever friend of mine who said he will come and he hasn't come, kal to uska bura haal hoga. Okay. Anyway, why should I penalize people who have come, who have taken the trouble to be here? I promise you a very, very interesting discussion and a lot of food for thought. When you go home and have your dinner, I'm sure you will have something to chew on. You'll have something to think about. You'll have something to really introspect on. So actually this thing happened, this particular talk is the result of something that happened long back. It all started with news of an investors conference in the city of New York. I will be wondering, how am I connected with an investors conference in the city of New York? The CEO and one of the members of the family of a very large Indian corporate was addressing a bunch of investors and prospective investors in New York. And he made a presentation on how his company has grown, what is the future like, and how rosy the picture is. And the company is in the pink of health. Suddenly from the back of the hall in that large hotel room, a voice came up. And the person asked, fine, your company, your group may be in fantastic shape, but look at the health of the CEO. Can he afford to carry on like this? Is he aware of the weight that he is carrying? I wonder how many of you can recall who this gentleman was, the CEO, Mr. Anil Ambani from Reliance. And at that point of time, Anil Ambani was apparently carrying a lot of extra kilos on his frame. But he was stunned by this particular query. And being a business person, and being a person who was aware that I must do something about it, otherwise investment from this part of the world is not likely to be very attractive, he immediately got to work. In fact, that very day, from New York, he called up a famous nutritionist and dietitian, Dr. Vijaya Venkat, and asked her for advice. On the phone, she gave him some quick short-term suggestions and said, when you come back to India, we'll sit down and we'll have a long chat, and I'll draw up a program for you, but in the meanwhile, you start doing these things. It so happened that he was going to be there for a few more days, and he woke up in the middle of the night, America Standard Time, which was daytime here, and he told Dr. Vijaya Venkat, fine, the diet is extremely tight. I'm feeling very hungry in the middle of the night, and I'm not able to sleep. She said, just shut up, drink 2 glasses of water and go back to sleep. If you value your health, please listen to me. And so he had no choice. He had committed to her and to himself that he would take her seriously. And he followed it, came back to India, and today you're all aware, you know that one of the celebrities in the Mumbai Marathon is Anil Ambani. and he is known for being a stickler for physical fitness, for a very, very stringent exercise schedule. And on those days when he is not able to run on the road, apparently he was running up and down the staircase in that residence of his in Colaba or Cuff Parade or wherever, carrying sandbags. So if the CEO's health is in question, what can happen to the organization? Very pertinent question. When I talk to a lot of CEOs, I interact with very many of them, I have the opportunity to work alongside some of them, to even give them some suggestions on marketing and sales. And I keep meeting many of them. Quite often, I am surprised by certain things that they do or they don't do, which I want to share with you. So, this particular idea spurred this thought that an Indian corporate is no less than an athlete. Because somewhere along the way, I'll tell you the origins of this particular note. So the question is, why is it that in the corporate world, some people perform exceedingly well and some people just fade away? What is it that motivates people to stay fit? What is it that motivates people to run the long race and win it in style? Whereas a lot of them, and you're aware of it, you keep hearing about burnout. Careers that zoom brilliantly and by the mid-30s, early 40s, hit the plateau and fall. And how is it that some people coast along merrily? So there are suggestions, there are reasons, there are various ideas offered by experts. Some say probably it is the lure of rich material rewards. Some people say it is the culture in the organization that breeds healthy thoughts, healthy actions, healthy ideas. And some people say management by objectives. I mean, this is as hazy as the subject itself. Nobody seems to have come up with a very, very tangible reason as to why some people do remarkably well even as they go older. See, the greatest irony of life, and I keep saying this all the time, I say it in a jocular manner, but it's a serious subject. I say, why is it that we can't begin our careers as CEOs and retire as sales reps? I'll tell you the reason why I asked this question. When you've just begun your career, there's no financial pressure on you. Youngsters would like you to believe, my dad paid 8 lakhs for the MBA, so I want a job that is 9 lakhs. क्या पहले ही साल में सब कुछ चुकाना पड़ेगा क्या? आज भी स्कूल में जो सीखा है उसकी कीमत आपने लौटा ही नहीं है. You can never pay back your dad. So don't give us these kind of answers at your interviews, MBA students. So everybody is looking at, when you begin your career, there is no financial pressure, there is no mental pressure, there is no emotional pressure. You're not married. So, and there's no pressure of any kind. You're physically superbly fit, even if you don't work out because you're young. People start working out when they suddenly realize that they've gotten old. So why can't you get the best job, the toughest job, the most difficult job when you begin, and then ease off, and finally, just before you hang up your boots, you do the simplest task. But that doesn't happen. As you grow older, you get the bigger jobs. As you get older, you get a larger team to handle. As you get older, you are working with various functions, various verticals, and to complicate everybody's life, we've all gone and created all kinds of jargon, all kinds of verticals, B2B, B2C, D2H, A to B, God knows all kind. D2H, I don't know, I don't know. हमारे दिनों में एक ग्राहक होता था, एक सेल्समैन होता था और एक प्रोडक्ट होता था, एंड वी यूज्ड टू डू बिजनेस. आजकल लोग मोबाइल फ़ोन इस्तेमाल करते हैं. सो आई एम सॉरी इफ आई एम बीइंग, आई ऑलवेज टेल पीपल, एक ज़माने में लोग बेचते थे, आजकल लोग व्हाट्सएप करते हैं और उस जोक को 140वीं बार फॉरवर्ड करते हैं. सो पॉइंट आई एम ट्राइंग टू मेक इज द डिमांड्स ऑन यू आर गोइंग टू कीप गोइंग अप. यू आर गोइंग टू गेट द टफर जॉब्स. How are you going to stay on top of this? And Most people traditionally have been thinking, and that's why we are taught engineering, or that's why we are taught management, or that's why we are taught accounting or HR or whatever, that everything is here. To be a successful corporate, you need to be a great thinker. Okay, no doubt about it, you must be a great thinker. Most effort, most work, most training, most learning and development activities, most interventions tend to focus on the cognitive part. That involves your brain, your thinking, and nothing else. So you have a guy who's brilliant. You have a guy who's extremely intelligent. But there's something else that's not falling in place, that's not gelling. Maybe he's not physically fit. Maybe he's not able to utilize all that knowledge in a very practical manner and work on its application. Maybe he's not able to handle a set of unruly subordinates. God gave us a hand with 5 different, units. 4 fingers and 1 thumb. Not one of them is of the same size or thickness. And we've learned to use them brilliantly. But give a manager 5 men who are different, and the guy stumbles and stutters and bumbles around and blames everybody except himself. I always tell people, you will never have a team of your own choice. You will inherit people who are not like you, who don't like you, and whom you have to bring together to make things happen. And that is the test of your managerial skills. So these are various theories. People keep talking about them. And the fact of the matter is that the world spins like a top. Things happen very fast. Things are happening much faster than ever before. Competition is much hotter than it ever was. The customer is far more stringent, far more careful, and far more choosy than he ever was. In earlier days, it was very easy, go and spew some knowledge and get business from a person. Today, there are all kinds of questions being asked, and the average executive is surrounded by pressures on him, not only on the physical capacity, but on mental, emotional, and spiritual capacities as well. And some of these words he doesn't seem to understand also. Surrounded by this jungle, what really happens is, the company is also fighting with the need to juggle all these qualities in a person and bring the best out of a person. Do managers have the time? Does the organization have the time? I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, I want to call this program like this. He said, don't do that, because the HR department or the CEO will think, ये तो उसको individual को benefit करेगा, वो company के लिए क्या result लाएगा. If this is the narrow-minded approach, how do you train people? You tell a guy in all ignorance or all innocence that hire people smarter than you so that you can focus on doing your work. And he says, if I hire people smarter than me, and he says it in typical Gujarati, मेरे सामने ही दुकान खोल देगा, मेरे ही सामने. Without realizing that he carries 35 years of experience and goodwill, which no one can replace. So, amidst all this insecurity, amidst all this confusion, here plods along our young corporate executive who is probably not getting any younger. And there are all kinds of demands on him. I must tell you something that's been very scary actually. Over the last 18 months, I have lost a dozen friends. I call them friends. Each one of them was a member of my team in some organization or the other, reporting to me or reporting to someone who was reporting to me. These 12 gentlemen who passed away in the last 18 months, none of them was above 48 years of age. None of them was above 48 years of age. Out of those 12 people, 7 of them were teetotalers, non-smokers, and vegetarians. I'm coming to it. Out of those 7 guys, 6 maintained excellent physical fitness regimens. That's why I'm saying I'm disappointed we don't have enough people in this. I wanted an overflowing auditorium today, because I'm touching on something that is scary. And I'm happy there are youngsters here, because I think if they start working on it from today, they'll probably have something in place. The statistic that I'm sharing, and each one of them, and not only that, some of those guys have been known to be very cool. Not the stressed kind of, and in any case, the last two organizations where I worked, we all together built up a culture where we tried avoiding high pressure tactics, arm twisting, and phaltu ka pressure generate karna kind of activities and all, we generally avoided. It didn't mean that you took everything coolly, but the idea was to not build up undue pressure on anyone. Enjoy your work, or the general philosophy. So the question is, if this person is working out, if this person has a stringent diet, if this person is careful about what he consumes, how does he succumb to a cardiac arrest? Okay, one of them met with an accident. Maybe I can count it out. And there were a couple who succumbed to cancer. But obviously, they were not at their fittest, or their immunity was not at its highest. So are you getting this point? In a lighter vein, I wanted to say, because this particular slide is scary, but in a lighter vein, I'm always reminded of a story. There was a gentleman who was celebrating his 100th birthday. And he threw a party for all his friends, and he wanted to celebrate because it completed 100 years. And pressmen were there, a lot of people were there in the hotel room. And they asked him, what is the secret of your durability? And he said, I don't smoke, I don't drink. I'm very particular about what I eat. I'm extremely disciplined in all matters. I maintain strict timings about sleep and rest and everything. I said, this is good, this is very interesting. I think all of us must follow this. The newspaper men were taking notes. Suddenly from the adjoining banquet hall, a loud noise came. People shouting, yelling, glasses breaking, bottles breaking, everyone cheering away to glory, clapping, sound of dancing, all kinds of things. Somebody asked, what is this sound? I'm not talking about this sound. I'm talking about the sound in the hotel room. My programs always are accompanied with background music, So, what is this sound? This guy said, relax, don't worry. That's my father celebrating his 140th birthday, and as usual, he's drunk and he's dancing with 3 ladies. I hope you got the message. I mean, you don't need to be a Puritan, or don't expect to live long just because you didn't smoke. That doesn't mean I'm a strong anti-tobacco lobbyist. I go around crushing cigarette packets. But the point I'm trying to make is there is something else. आप कसरत कर रहे हो. What has happened in today's times is, until a few years back, people were focusing on their brain, knowledge, education. I must know what I'm talking about. I must understand machinery. I must understand technology, artificial intelligence, real intelligence, virtual intelligence, whatever is going to happen. Everybody is very knowledgeable about all this. In the last 10, 15 years, people have become pretty fussy about physical fitness. I see more people running. I see more people swimming. I see more people playing tennis. I see a lot of people playing golf, riding, all kinds of things. If nothing else, people go for workouts at a gym or enroll at a yoga class or something like that. Awareness of physical fitness is perhaps far more today than it was about 15, 20 years back. More and more people are becoming aware of it. And Ahmedabad, famous as it is for being the diabetic capital of India and probably also the cardiac capital of India, I believe. So people are aware. People make sure that they jog in Atira and then go to Manik Chowk. That's a different thing. At Manik Chowk, I happened to order, it happened by accident, I happened to order between my wife and me something called a Gwalior dosa, which probably never went to Gwalior. And this is a dosa in me, there's a lot of butter. I cracked open that dosa and a lot of butter flew all over me. My wife refused to eat it, I refused to eat it. I said, ये तो खतरनाक है. I mean, there must be a thick lining outside my heart the moment I eat it. What happened was, the man saw it and he came and asked me, क्या हुआ साहब? मक्खन ज़्यादा है क्या? I said, नहीं, dosa कम है. So, I mean, how can you actually eat that stuff? Or that pineapple chocolate sandwich? And in any case, Ahmedabad માં તો તમે ચીઝમાં જમવાનું મૂકો છો ને? You don't put cheese in your food, you put food in your cheese. And because you're in Ahmedabad, there is more cheese. So the point I'm trying to make is, I don't know, I think we shouldn't take things too seriously. I'm still trying to figure out. But life and work management, for it to go hand in hand, I think we need to learn to separate a lot of things. And how we expend our energy and recover our energy. And I think the next couple of slides, we should be focusing on that. So there is something called the ideal performance state, which is the origin of this talk actually. I must give credit to two gentlemen who in the year 2001 came up with a very interesting article in the Harvard Business Review. I read this in the year 2000, January 2001 to be precise. And these gentlemen were Jim Lohr and Tony Schwartz. One of them is a sports medicine professional, and the other is an author. And both got to work on what is it that makes people tick at the corporate level. And the first thing that they figured out was, now this is very interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Why did I choose this subject? Because I was inspired by the word athlete, corporate athlete. Take an athlete, take an international class athlete. What is the duration of his career? Actively, not more than 7 to 10 years. At the Olympic level, at the world competing level, it's not longer than 7 to 10 years. What is the average work lifespan of a corporate executive? 35 to 40 years. I just did a calculation 2 days back. I was in Indore. I came back this morning. There was a program at the Indore Management Association. And I was telling somebody, how much experience do you have? I said, another 4.5 months and I'll complete 40 years. He said, wow, you mean you have been working for 40 years? I said, yes, and I hope to do it for another 40. I'm glad none of you is laughing. A lot of people were laughing there. I said, why do you laugh? They said, are you joking? I said, no, I'm working on an article on the corporate athlete. So hopefully I'll find some answers. The more I read, the more I think, I'll probably discover some more answers on the way and probably take the help of a lot of friends and figure out how is it that we can last longer in this corporate circus. Isn't this very interesting? And isn't this very scary? Look at how an international athlete works on himself, on his body, on his diet, on his mind, on his emotions, on his spirits. And look at us. For the first 5-10 years of our career, I don't think we even care about, we care about how we look. Obviously we do. So we go to the right spa, we go to the right salon, we go to the right barber. I have never bothered a barber. From a young age I've had this kind of hairstyle, so I'm perfectly fine. But we are looking at how good we look, but how resilient, how strong, what kind of inner strength. From inside, how are we? And if you don't begin early enough, I tell a lot of youngsters when I go to B school, they say, how come you're so energetic? I say, well, I swim for an hour every day, but it's not about what I do today. It's about what I used to do when I was your age. And I guess that's the foundation. We'll be talking about this. Physical fitness, no doubt, is the foundation. But then there are a lot of other building blocks that need to be put together. So the ideal performance state makes you look at the simple fact that you are faced with a lot of demands at the workplace. An athlete does not run all day. A 100-meter sprinter, a specialist runner, and Usain Bolt doesn't run every day. He doesn't run 75 rounds of 100 meters every day. He takes certain days off. On certain days he's reading, on certain days he's listening to his coach. On certain days he's probably working on strength building exercises, on some days he's only working on stretching. And on some days he rests. Most international level athletes are competing 6 to 7 months in a year. That's all. A corporate athlete competes every day. What is the longest vacation a corporate athlete can take? Manish Bhai can tell us. An HR man can give us exact data. Not more than 30-35 days in a month if he is very lucky. And never a single break. It may be in 2 parts. No one can afford to be away from work for so long, or at least that's what they think. I've told a lot of managers, a lot of work got done when you were away. Good show, you're a good manager. And he thinks I'm making fun of him. We managers need to make ourselves dispensable actually, but we think we are indispensable. It's only when we go on a holiday do we realize that things happen superbly. Anyway, so I guess that has to do with the quality of the manager himself and the team that he is looking after. So when we compare an athlete with a corporate athlete, I think the corporate athlete has more pressure on him. Competition. Usain Bolt knows who he is competing with. There are 7 more fellows in the adjoining lane. At times we don't even know who our competitor is. So the point I'm trying to make is the average corporate's life is tougher than that of an athlete. But how serious are we in recognizing this and working on it? Or do we let time fly and then say one day, this is the best I could do? Think about it. So, for a successful career in athletics, athletes work on a multi-system approach, a multi-level approach. They're working on their mind, they're working on their body, they're working on their emotions. Is the average corporate even aware of this? Does he remain stressed? So we come to the high performance pyramid, which Jim Lohr and Tony Schwartz started working on. And they said, there is a certain platform on which the pyramid is built. The foundation is physical capacity, no doubt about it. You can work 35, 40, 45 years only if you are physically fit. So there's no doubt about it. You need to have a regimen. You need to have some kind of an activity which keeps you on the move. Like experts always say, no, then the mind must be still and the body must move. The pity is, most often, it is the other way around. The mind is a chattering monkey, and the body is a piece of sedentary muscle and bone. Most of us are couch potatoes. The easiest thing is to put a man in front of a television set, hand over a tub of popcorn or salted peanuts, and he can sit there all day and have a wonderful holiday. Sunday means I need to wake up late. For the last 9 years, every Sunday morning, I mark my attendance at AMA because I have my diploma in sales program running, which has beaten the record of Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. That ran for 8 years. My program has run for 9. So, the point I'm trying to make is you have the physical capacity, no doubt, and I'm happy that most managers are aware of this and they are working on it. But tell me, doesn't it happen? This famous Latin saying, which translated into English, says, a healthy mind resides in a healthy body. My question is, वो ठीक है, वो लैटिन है. दिसंबर के महीने में आप रात को सोने से पहले अपना ट्रैक्स, अपने जूते, अपना मफलर, अपना टोपी, अपना हुडी, जो भी है आप बिछा के रखते हो. You do get up in the morning because the alarm wakes you up. You slip into your clothes. You are about to tie your shoelaces and you peep out of the window or open the door a bit and you say, ठंडी है, कल से करेंगे. क्यों? कल क्या होने वाला है? Summer. Tomorrow morning will be summer. So who is telling who? Is the body telling the mind or is the mind telling the body? So, is physical capacity alone going to take you to success? Isn't the mind telling the body? When we get up to do something, it is the mind that tells us. The body doesn't tell the mind. There are people who probably went to work when they had 101 degrees temperature. And once they reach the office, they reach the place of work, they got so much immersed into it. Why talk about people who go to offices? Think of a typical homemaker. Do we even realize at times that the homemaker had high fever? But the kids had exams, the husband had a conference, she needed to pack their breakfast or lunch or whatever. Did she complain? She got over it. And maybe once the kids and the husband went away, she probably took an analgesic and went to sleep. It's the mind. So, which brings us to the next level, which is the emotional capacity, and then you have the mental capacity. I'll throw more light on it. And then you have something called the spiritual capacity, which most of us don't want to discuss because we think the word spiritual has to do with maybe some rituals or maybe some mumbo jumbo or some saffron colored clothes or being a sadhu. No, not at all. We'll look at it. I'll demystify it for you. Just because there is a Swami in my name doesn't mean that I'm going to talk about spirituality and things like that. So, the foundation of the ideal performance state, as I said, is physical, endurance, strength, flexibility. Even while I'm talking about athletic terminology, please try and relate it to the corporate world. Endurance, being able to handle a lot of things over a long period of time. Strength, tough enough. Flexibility, you're not rigid. You don't always say no, you have an open mind, like a parachute. The human mind works only when it is open, just like a parachute. So are you open or are you rigid? Are you flexible? Are you willing to listen to people? And of course, focus, that you take on something and you work on it relentlessly. Now this is where something happens. When you work on something relentlessly, is there a tipping point beyond which you have actually stopped contributing? You actually hit a plateau. You actually started tapering off. Is the law of diminishing returns beginning to apply? Just because you worked on something for 8 hours, does it really mean you've done your best? So about working hard and working smart and things like that. Though I must tell youngsters, you learn to work smart only when you've learned to work hard, and you know the difference between the two. So there is this very interesting point of a counter question. वो तो सिगरेट पीता है, वो तो दारू पीता है, वो सोते रहता है, वो कभी दौड़ता नहीं है, and he's been getting results. Oh sure, yes. But shall we examine him over the next 25-30 years? Is all this happening at the cost of something? Is all this happening at the cost of his physical health? Is all this happening? When I sit down to think about Shatrugna Parte, 36 years old, small built guy, not at all overweight, my ex-colleague used to look after my Pune branch. And he goes and joins a paint company, and 2 months into that job, sitting at a dealer's place, he has 3 heart attacks in 5 minutes. 36. His birthday comes on the 26th of September, so just a few days back I was thinking about Shatru and I said, why did Shatru go? Is something else at work inside your system? Is stress? Stress is a scary word, isn't it? Let me tell you something. Stress is a crucial word. You need stress. To build muscle, you need to push a weight. To build muscle, you need to lift a weight. And you need to lift a weight more than you can actually afford to. When I do my bicep workout or my chest workout on a particular day, I just ensure that for the next 48 hours I don't work those muscles. Because that's the recovery. In fact, you're supposed to strain your nerves so much that the nerves tear. The fiber tears and it recovers over the next 48 hours and becomes stronger. So stress is not a dirty word. Stress is not killing you. It is how you handle stress that kills you. And so come the other aspects of the other non-physical capacity aspects. They are extremely important. You don't want to pay a heavy price for all that. So we come to physical capacity. How do you build physical capacity? Most of you know it. I don't want to dwell on it for too long. But physical capacity is quite simply building energy, sustaining energy, and using it to your advantage. And what is energy? Energy is nothing but the capacity of the body to do some work. That's it, as simple as that. Now, that's the fundamental level. That is a given. If you're not even working on that, you're probably... Weightlifting is the best paradigm. Weightlifting is the best example to talk about. Weightlifters lift weights many, many times their weight. We must be wondering how they do it. But that is it. They're able to lift the weight and they keep on increasing it. And they're able to lift it more and more and more and more. You heard of Sergey Bubka, the famous pole vaulter. Sergey Bubka, it is said, every time he raised the bar, he would fly over it. My advice to all youngsters is, every time you go to a bar, raise it. Most people go to the bar and they don't know what to raise except that glass. So nothing wrong. You want to celebrate something, do it. But please do understand that physical capacity is an essential, the foundation. I am not actually going to talk about, but do you remember what happens to a tennis player between points? He scored a point, or the game is over, and the referee announces Federer to love. You got Federer on this side, you have Rafa Nadal on this side, and they're crossing over. Is Federer thinking about the game? I still remember one of my old favorite tennis players, Ivan Lendl. Ivan Lendl, between points, would look at his racket and do something like this to the net, the racket. Energy management is about how you expend all your energy and use the next few seconds to recover it. I'm sure you people have observed Sachin Tendulkar as a batsman between deliveries, or Gundappa Vishwanath, or MS Dhoni. That ball is over, it's forgotten, it may have beaten him or he may have hit a 4. Forget it. Don't think about the next ball. Right now, can I recover my energy? This, at the level of sportsmen like Dhoni and Tendulkar or Lendl or Bubka, you're probably doing it involuntarily. You may have to begin it in a conscious manner. You have an important exam to write. Tell me, you've all gone through it. What were you doing 3 minutes before you entered the exam hall? 50% of you are going to tell me, I was reading notes. Do those notes actually go into your head? Or do they make you more nervous? Think about it. The day you have an exam to write, is it not better to read a piece of fiction? I don't know, just a question. I'm trying to share some thoughts. I happen to be 62. I happen to be a little more active now as a self-employed professional than I was as president marketing in a building materials company. That doesn't mean I wasn't working then. I travel more, I work longer hours, and I'm enjoying it. There must be something that you learn to build into your work style even while you are. Think of a bowler walking back to the top of his bowling mark. Is he talking to somebody? कैसे डाला मैंने बॉल, अब कौन सा डालूं? If you look at his, what is the word? Ekagrata, concentration. That is recovery. What do? We get into a conference mode in the morning, and we are in the conference mode all day till late evening, and the cocktails begin, and the conference thoughts and politics and all the negative emotions flow with the liquor. People from the corporate world can identify with this very easily. Is there a break? Can you break away from it? Can you recover? Think about it. Physical capacity, simple little advice that people give, good sleeping and eating rituals. I don't want to preach because I'm sure there are a lot of you who are excellent practitioners of all this. But by and large, what people say is, eat often, eat smaller, frequent meals. Don't skip breakfast because that is where your energy comes for the day. You had a long 8 to 10 hours break after dinner. Eat a balanced diet, carbohydrates, proteins and fats in some kind of a ratio like this, 55, 30, 15. Stay hydrated. Even if you're not thirsty, drink water. Move physically. Rest your mind, move your body. Change channels mentally. Change channels emotionally. Change channels mentally is, let's say you're working on a project and you're discussing with your team. Every 90 minutes or 120 minutes, stop it. Move away from that table and do something different. Maybe you could, and people do that. They probably check some mail, or they probably check some messages, or they go and check if the production is online, or if the particular order was executed, or whatever. So you're on a different thought process. That is mental. Have you ever had a hearty, loud laugh in the middle of a serious discussion? Think about it. You can always find a reason, and you can always find a method. That is changing channels emotionally. In fact, when we come to emotions, I want to tell you, this test was tried out by these two gentlemen. Half a dozen people were told to act angry. They were to act angry. They acted angry, and some medical tests were done on them immediately. Then they took a break. Half an hour later, they were given a situation, or they were put into a situation, or circumstances were created in such a way that they got angry. Medical tests were done on them immediately. The results were the same. In other words, simulation also leads to the same kind of results. So, can you not do the other way around? Can you not create a scenario where you get everybody to laugh loudly about something, as long as it's a harmless joke, not making fun of somebody? I've known this from my own experience, that in any case, it's very difficult for me to have a serious discussion. All my students will bear with me on this for more than half an hour. If I haven't cracked a joke, they wonder if somebody else has come into the room. The point I'm trying to make is, it helps. So please don't dismiss off any film actor as a useless piece of machinery. Acting out emotions requires you to stress yourself far more than we actually think. God knows what kind of hypertension Salman Khan has. We don't know. And of course, They say do at least 2 weight training sessions in a week, because all cardio is not going to help you. You really want to build strength, you must work on your muscles. Just for the information of a lot of people here, some of them are seeing me after a long time. I shed 23 kilos in the last 2 years. Quite simply because I told myself, if I carry a little less weight on my legs, I'll probably move around faster. And that's how swimming happened. And it has helped tremendously. Get energized, not only by physical activity, but by mental and emotional activities also. Another thing you can do, very simple, in the midst of a serious discussion, ask people to take a 5-minute bio break, pick up a newspaper, and try solving that number game or a word game, right? Or just read the headlines, you will laugh. Because the quality of English in an English newspaper in Ahmedabad will make you laugh anyways. Sorry, you were saying something.
I always enjoy my tea with salt. Tea with salt.
That's it. Switch off. Switch off even if it is for 5 minutes. Now we come to emotional capacity. Conference going on, company event. They're discussing business, they're discussing numbers, they're discussing customers, they're discussing lost business. And look at the expression on people's faces. Emotional capacity is the internal climate that supports peak performance. Most people miss out on this. Most organizations tend to carry a heavy stress and transfer it down the line. The idea is to have your people at their happiest best. Ironically, now this is strange, when you talk to senior athletes, when you talk to senior sports people, I've been very fortunate to have a few international sportsmen who are very good friends of mine opening up and talking to me and telling me about how they feel when they're performing very well. And none of them says it is a stressful moment. Marion Jones, when she won the sprint gold medal at the Sydney Olympics, you know what she said? I am at the best. I'm feeling on top of the world. I won the race because I was feeling on top of the world. She didn't say I was feeling on top of the world because I won the race. So it's the mind telling the body, you can do it. Sourav Ganguly beat the hell out of Sri Lankan bowlers in a particular tournament. I got 180 odd runs. I had an opportunity to speak to him a little after that. How did you do it? Did you have a fight at home? Because you hit the ball very hard that day. And he said, no, I just got my timing right. I think my feet were moving better. Sourav Ganguly is a modest man. A lot of people think he's a very arrogant. He's not. He's a very modest guy. He's a great sharp thinker. And he's a very brave man. He has also made comebacks. What he was trying to say was that he was at the peak of his mental and emotional conditioning at that point of time. Physical results follow. It is your emotions, it is your mental strength that takes you across first. So, people in, why? There are so many of you sitting here who could be professionals, salespeople, HR professionals, accounting professionals, maybe lawyers. I don't know if there are a couple of surgeons sitting here, sometimes they do come. And they say that the best operation was when they were feeling absolutely on top of the world. And a surgeon's job is tough. I always tell people there are only 3 or 4 jobs where you can go home in the evening and measure job satisfaction. A lawyer, a surgeon, and a salesman. Of course, a policeman also. Because he might just say, ab tak 56, kal 57. But then the musicians, I know for instance that my idol, the man I worship, not only as a musician but as a human being, Muhammad Rafi Sahab, was at his peaceful best when he sang. He conveyed it through all his songs. And Asha Bhosle is supposed to have said, Rafi साहब गाने में घुस जाते थे. वो emotion पूछते थे क्या है scene, कौन है? And if it was Shami Kapoor, then Yahoo was very easy to happen. The same man was a shy, reclusive, monosyllabic, boring man to interview. Nobody would want to listen to Rafi Sahab's interviews. They were pathetically boring. He couldn't speak much. He wouldn't speak much. But put him in front of a microphone and give him a music director, and you have a man whom the Bharat Ratna doesn't deserve him. The Bharat Ratna doesn't deserve Rafi Sahab. That's the point. There are people, they just get into it. They say no. I remember once I was struggling in a particular job, and a senior gentleman from a different function, a well-wisher, told me, Ranga, I know you're struggling, but let me tell you, the only way out of the problem is to get into it. Now, it sounded like Greek and Latin at that time to me, but over the next 7.5 years, I learned, and I stayed on to play a long innings in that organization. So it's about putting your mind and your emotions into the job. So, positive energy ignites energy, success, stability, a certain amount of calmness. Exact opposite of that, negative energy drains your energy and creates impatience, anger, fear, sadness. They can become toxic, thereby increasing tension and crippling your performance. And when that happens, it also starts telling on your physical capacities. So it's all linked. Don't separate the two. That pyramid clearly talked about every ritual leading to the next capacity. Body language. I give you this example of becoming angry, acting angry, and then actually becoming angry. This happens. If you are relaxed with your body language, the other person does. Pretty often in my sales training programs, I tell people, your customer is your mirror. If you are relaxed, your customer is going to be relaxed. If you look tense, I know there are companies where dealers have asked the salesperson, आज 28 तारीख है क्या? आपको कैसे मालूम? नहीं, तुम्हारा चेहरा बता रहा है, month end है. So, how easy it is to convey stress. And they say no. When we talk of body language, you are what you repeatedly do. Or excellence is not something that happens by sheer coincidence. It is the result of habits carried out every day. It's as simple as that. There are people who smoke heavily, they become pregnant, and they stop smoking because they know their child is on the way. I've read about this lady. The child is on the way. She stops smoking, and she doesn't smoke until the delivery. The day after the delivery, she starts smoking again. Then another child is on the way, she stops smoking. So, if you have a purpose, we'll talk about purpose, that's the thing right on top of the pyramid. A large purpose, the bigger picture. Mental capacity is the third level of performance. People work on it. Most of us work on it. Typically, people work on process re-engineering or knowledge management. The need here is to focus, work on something, accomplish it, detach. And time management is extremely useful. And for those of you who want to understand it better, please follow my 5-4-2-1 formula. And if you do not know what is my 5-4-2-1 formula, please go downstairs, tell Mr. Nair to organize a time management workshop. Did I sell you an idea? I'm incorrigible. But if you manage your priorities, you can save yourself a lot of stress. Taking breaks, I spoke about it already. Most often you get answers to your questions when you're doing gardening. Most often you get answers to your question when you're standing under the shower. You're not sitting and thinking, you're not saying, चलो, अब से लेकर 20 मिनट तक मैं सोचूंगा और इस problem का solution ढूंढूंगा. No, you never get the answer then. You get the answer when you're taking a walk. You get the answer when you're jogging. You get the answer when you're probably listening to some song. Why does that happen? Because you've given your mind that little breadth, that latitude. So give your time, give a certain amount of latitude. I've already talked about listening to music or playing word games or number games, switching off. I know it's not easy, but please do it. Try it for 5 minutes, try it for 10 minutes, and then slowly. How many of you can successfully live without a mobile phone 12 hours a day? You do. A lot of you do. I'm sure 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. तो बहुत आसान है. How many of you can switch off your mobile data after 7 p.m.? Think about it. An hour more and see how much energy and time you can save for yourself. How many of you can say, tomorrow is digital detox day, tomorrow is Sunday? That's it. And try and do it in various other aspects also. People, Wi-Fi बोलते हैं. वो चाय की दुकान में उसने बोला Wi-Fi है, and I ran because I thought my wife had come. Wi-Fi है. So there's a problem. We're all running away from the wife because we are running towards Wi-Fi. Leading golfers, leading sports people. Jack Nicklaus, another example, a great golfer. He says, in the span of 20 minutes, I'm at the peak and I'm in the valley. वो shot मारने के बाद, when I'm walking to the next, to take to the tee, I'm not into golf. कोई कश्ती डूब नहीं जाएगी, आपकी कंपनी डूब नहीं जाएगी, you are not Atlas. A lot of us think we are Atlas. Visualizing success, this is where Sergey Bubka was asked, how come you sail over the bar every time? He says, even when I dream, even when I think, even when I plan, I always see my feet clearing the bar. I never think that my feet are going to get stuck. And when we go to bat, I remember in my college days when I used to go to bat, even if I was taking guard, I don't know, I was hearing the sound of leather hitting wood. Now, leather can hit wood, it can hit your bat, but it was hitting the other kind of wood, the stumps. And so it happened. If you think you're going to succeed, you will. If you think you're going to fail, you are absolutely right. You will. And the most important thing, right on top, spiritual capacity, let me demystify it, don't worry about what is written there. Is there something that drives you? Is there something because of which you are working? My advice to all sales people has been, अगर तुम पगार के लिए सेल्स के नौकरी में आए हो, निकल जाओ. नहीं बेच पाओगे तुम. You have to have a bigger purpose. You have to find joy in the customer's face. I wrote this book, Discovering the Joy of Selling. My guru, Professor Abraham Koshi of IIM Ahmedabad, wrote the foreword. And he told me after writing the foreword, do you know why I agreed to write the foreword? Because you wrote the book as a salesman who enjoys selling. I said, sir, the protagonist does not discover joy when he sells. He discovers joy when the customer tells him, you made my day. So are you in the business of making people's days? If you're not in the business of making people's day, don't sell. If you're not in the business of making people healthy, you probably should be out of the medical profession. Is there a bigger calling? Is there a bigger purpose? 2 years back, in December, coincidentally, AMA was completing 60 years, I was completing 60 years, on that very date actually. And I talked about living with a purpose. What is your purpose? Yesterday in Indore, I asked a young man, where do you see yourself 10 years from today? He says, I have no idea. I told him, get idea. I mean, I didn't ask him to get a mobile connection. I asked him to connect with himself. If you don't know what you're going to do 10 years down the line, you might as well be drifting. This is probably what is going to keep people alive and durable and ticking and clicking. Physical fitness rahega, mental fitness rahega, emotional fitness bhi aa jayega with a certain amount of practice. It's not easy. Taking the rough with the smooth. But most importantly, if you do not have a big cause that drives you at work or whatever you do, you may probably never be wanting to, then you will feel that there is some pain here, there is some pain there, and then that is what starts stopping you. There are people who are 80 plus who are very active. Fauja Singh was running even when he was 100 years old. What is it that makes people run? He may not have been physically the fittest man in the world, but spiritually he was probably well connected. Think about it, because I think most people tend to think spirituality का मतलब है some mumbo jumbo, some jadoo mantra, some slok bolna, some recitation of mantras, nothing. How well do you delve into your deepest values and look at why you came on earth? I am fortunate. I got a signal that I should work for the betterment of salespeople in the country. I do that. I run a movement called Awards, a wave of awareness for regaining dignity for the salesperson. Because I feel that the salesperson doesn't think proud, doesn't feel proud of himself. So I'm only working with one simple cause. I go to B schools, I teach youngsters to fall in love with sales. Because if they fall in love with sales, they'll take up sales jobs. If they take up sales jobs, products will sell. If products will sell, our GDP will go up. You don't have to look at any other country to go and study or find jobs. Then we'll actually have people coming to India. The Prime Minister may have a slightly different way of looking at it. All I'm trying to tell you is there something that drives you? Every morning I arise. All of us do. Lord Swami Vivekananda also said, no, arise. For me, arise is Achal Rangaswamy's initiative for sales excellence. Each one of us asks, ASK, I ask, acquire sales knowledge. That's it. I may be short-sighted, I may be obsessive, I may be focused only on one subject, but it drives me. Every morning I get up, tomorrow morning, Sunday morning, when everybody would be wanting to sleep, raat bhar garba kiya hai. That's what they're going to say. Last Sunday I asked all my students, आप में से कितने लोग आएंगे? Said सब आएंगे. Because I told them, don't worry, AMA will give you fafda jalebi. If that drives you, good enough. And the point I'm trying to make is there something that drives you? Is there a deeper cause? When you build spiritual capacity, you will step off that treadmill, वो जो machine चल रही है ना, continuously आपको pressure में डालते हुए, उससे आप नीचे उतरेंगे. You will stop for a minute to think, to reflect. You will oscillate between high pressure and quick recovery. You will regain that energy, you will regain that strength. You cannot stay in a permanent state of stress. You need to come down. And then you go back. You cannot succeed without keeping in sight the big picture. The big picture that I said is, what is it that drives you? What is it that makes you get up in the morning, irrespective of fever, the cold, the weather, or a bus strike? So here, staying grounded, being a little cool about things. Meditation is a very difficult word. I can't meditate. I find it very difficult to close my eyes because some fly or some mosquito bothers me. But ladies and gentlemen, I meditate 7 hours a day or 8 hours a day. The moment I get into a training room, my meditation begins. The moment my training ends, my meditation closes. Can you do that? It's simple. Can you write down your thoughts and forget it? Or, I promised somebody in the evening when he met me before the talk, what are you going to talk about? I said, I'm going to share my favorite prayer. And if people want to use the prayer, let them use it. And the prayer is very simple. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. भगवान, मुझे शांति दो कि जो चीज़ मैं नहीं बदल सकता वो मैं एक्सेप्ट कर लूँ. जिन चीज़ों को मैं बदल सकता हूँ उनको बदलने की ताकत और धैर्य दो, और उन दोनों के बीच में फ़र्क को समझने के लिए मुझे अक्ल दो. I say this twice a day. I cannot do anything about the weather, but I can carry an umbrella or a raincoat. I cannot do anything about that delayed aircraft or train, but I can carry a book. Or I can admire some young person who really looks good and makes me want to feel like I am 45 or 35. At a distance, of course, because we have a lot of Me Toos around nowadays. You've got to be careful. I told my wife, I love you. She said, me too. I ran away. So you've got to be careful. The point that I'm trying to make is, the fact file is, and this is proven, there are statistics and there are people talking about it, When you feel strong and resilient physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, you will perform better with more passion and for longer. You will win, and so will your family and your organization. You don't work for an organization. When you look very carefully, you work for the betterment of your family. So don't detach that. Don't take home to the office. Please don't bring office home. I think things will be fine. And I wish you great victories. And should you have any doubt, there is a very simple thing. No? You can subscribe to my Rangaisms. And if you want to know how to subscribe to Rangaism, just Google it. Thank you very much for your attention.
To begin with, sir, this is really indeed a very interesting lecture, which is very unusual actually, to talk of corporate athlete. Nobody talks about these things, and we can realize after the presentation how important it is to sustain ourselves and perform ourselves throughout our life. And it reflects not only corporate actually, as a person individually, how you make yourself in life overall, That's what it talks about it. And indeed, we are very thankful to you, sir, for giving us such an insight about the true life of human beings, actually. Sir, often, my question is, somebody has asked, sense of insecurity. This is very common in most of the offices and corporate world. This comes over a period of time. What I realize is, if you don't upgrade yourself all the time, you feel insecure. Because because the newcomers who comes under you, or the new blood which comes into the organization comes with a lot of knowledge, which you were not familiar. You had only an experience with the people and probably experience for judgment. But knowledge you are missing, so there is a need for any manager or a boss. He has to upgrade himself on a regular basis in all aspects of his business and life. If he has that, and if he has a little bit of spirituality, what for I am here, if he understand what for I am running a business, I was a professional turned entrepreneur, I realize my business I am doing for myself first, then for my family, then for my employees, my vendors, my customers, and at large for my country, my society. If you understand this, you will do no wrong in what you do it actually. So therefore, often, sir, the stress also comes from the goals, objectives, targets, kind of thing. If you know how to focus on your process and try to excel in your process, and if you have we talk about generally, we want to grow. Growth is a way of life. We want to grow, but we don't set any targets in my company for last 15 years. I'm running a small company, but it's a beautiful company, I feel. Okay. And we don't have any targets. We focus on our work only throughout, and that doesn't give any kind of stress on working. If you don't feel insecure, you delegate the things naturally. Therefore, you become free, and I have every time, all the time I have in my life, being the boss of my company. Okay, I'm the most free man in my office, and I have a lot of visitors comes. They sit in front of me for 1 hour, they attend 10 calls. And I wait for calls for the whole day. I don't receive calls. Sometimes I get a doubt whether I'm doing business or not. Okay. This is how you make your life, simpler, so that you can carry on more and more. This is my experience, a simple experience I share. And this lecture really throws about how a corporate person has to run himself. Thank you very much. Thanks for your active participation. Before we depart, on behalf of AMA, I would like to make a small memento presentation to you. Thank you.